Hello and welcome back to Islamophobia Watch. I'm George, your host, and today we're going to talk about the U.S. Army vet who turned jihadist, plotted mass casualties, terrorism act on innocent civilians in 2019 in Long Beach, California, and has now been indicted on terrorism charges. This happened yesterday. The Department of Justice released a statement about this case, and there was some coverage in the media, but not very much at all. How does this work? How do you have an American Army vet who all of a sudden he's just floating around doing his own thing, and then one day he just reads a story about Muslims who are just really suffering in the world, real victims? Okay? The Department of Justice statement doesn't say anything about this. There's no story there. It's just, I'm going to read it to you, and the link is on the website. But it's really interesting. I mean, imagine you're completely oblivious to this whole thing with Islam. You're just Joe Average. And all of a sudden you read this news. San Bernardino Valley man found guilty in terror plot to bomb a rally in Long Beach. A federal jury convicted a California man today for attempting to bomb a rally in Long Beach for the purpose of causing mass casualties. Okay. According to court documents and evidence presented at trial, Mark Stevens Domingo, 28, of Reseda, was found guilty of providing material support to terrorism and attempting to use a weapon of mass destruction. The investigation into Domingo was prompted by his online posts and conversations in an online forum in which he expressed support for violent jihad, a desire to seek retribution for attacks against Muslims, and a willingness to become a martyr. Why would he do that? He's just a U.S. Army vet who just all of a sudden wakes up one day and is like, I'm really upset about attacks against Muslims, just like about any other American U.S. Army vet. No, that's not how it works. But there's not a word about it in this press release from the Department of Justice. Not a single word about it. So How does an Army vet all of a sudden become so indignant about injustices against Muslims? Asking once, asking twice. Nobody at the DOJ gets it, I guess. All right, let's help them out. It's called Islam. Okay? There's not a single sentence about the fact that only a Muslim who has converted to Islam and is following the tenets of Islam proper could possibly get indignant about the injustices against Muslims and then go on to wage jihad on his fellow Americans. Not a word about it in this document. Not a word about the mosque he went to. Not a word about the imam he listened to. The literature he was consuming. Why? Because the U.S. government doesn't want us to upset the Muslims. But wait, seems to me the Muslims aren't too worried about upsetting us, are they? I have a quote here from an article by Robert Spencer. It says, the Quran is supplemented by the Hadith, purported records of the Prophet Muhammad's actions and sayings. Some hadith predict that at the end of the world, in the words of Ibn Kathir, the Jews, this is a quote, the Jews will support the Dajjal, the false Messiah, and the Muslims, along with Isa, Jesus, son of Mary, will kill the Jews. Did you catch that? The Muslims, along with Isa, Jesus, son of Mary, will kill the Jews. Interesting reading. This is a quote. The idea that the end times will be marked by Muslims killing Jews came from Muhammad himself, who, according to a hadith, has said, the hour will not be established until you fight with the Jews, and the stone behind which a Jew will be hiding will say, O Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind me, so kill him. This hadith is a favorite motif among contemporary jihadists. On March 30, 2007, Hamas spokesman Ismail Radwan said on Palestinian Authority television, the hour, the final hour, that is, the resurrection, will not take place until the Muslims fight the Jews and the Muslims kill them, and the rock and the tree will even say, O Muslim, servant of God, there is a Jew behind him, kill him. So there you have it. Islam specifically teaches Muslims. Notice it says, O Muslim. It's in the hadith. That's what Islam teaches. Why are we so nervous about calling it what it is? If anyone has a responsibility to distance themselves from this, it's their responsibility. When I hear 1.5 billion people unanimously declare, we do not believe this, scratch it off, destroy it, denounce it, then I may say, okay, we have a conversation here. I haven't heard anything like this. I haven't heard any imam, any sheikh. Muslims have not denounced this, ever. The only Muslims who denounce this is the ex-Muslims, people who actually walk away from Islam. So if you want to talk about a reform of Islam, there you have it. The reform of Islam is walking away from it. Because the only way a reform happens is if all the top sheikhs at Al-Azhar University in Egypt produce a version of the Quran and the Hadith and the Sirah, eliminate all the violent verses upon which the doctrine of jihad is based, and produce a secular, if you will, or moderate Islam, and they'll never do that. Because Islam teaches if someone messes with the sacred word of Allah, they should be basically killed. Because that's the sacred, 100% unadulterated revelation of Muhammad. You see? So it doesn't work. It's impossible. There's no such thing as reforming Islam. There are Muslims who are secular Muslims, and they're not going to follow the tenets of Islam. But there's no such thing as reforming Islam itself, because that would mean literally wiping out all these verses. O Muslim, servant of God, there is a Jew behind me. Kill him. You have to delete this. You have to declare this is false. This is not from Allah. Allah is not a murderer. He doesn't speak to Muhammad to tell people to kill people. Okay? That's what you have to say. You have to put it in writing. You have to begin to teach it in all the Muslim religious schools. And they'll never do that. Everyone knows that. There's no chance of this ever happening. So therefore, what we do is we must account for this fact and develop a defensive doctrine that will prevent people like that who believe this, i.e. Muslims who believe this, to have access to peaceful civil societies like the Western world. They can believe all this if they want and stay in the desert somewhere where they belong and kill each other if they want, but they can't do this in America. And if they do it, they must be punished severely with the full weight of the law, and all those who participate in mosques, imams, and the whole entire ecosystem, care, all of these people must be banned, and then they must go. Okay? That's what needs to happen. So as you can see, Islam specifically teaches Muslims. It says Muslims. This hadith says, oh, Muslim. It doesn't say, oh, somebody, human being who is a victim of deception. It says, oh, Muslim. All right? So if their own book tells them that the calling of a Muslim is to kill the Jew, which means then he kills the Jew, he'll kill the Christian, he'll kill anyone who is against Sharia law and Islam. And if their own book teaches that, why don't we talk about it? Why are we walking around dancing around this issue and saying stuff like, oh, I'm not against Muslims, I'm just against Islam? I have news for you. Islam has not killed a single person ever in the history of mankind. Islam cannot harm anyone. Islam, or any other genocidal doctrine, needs a host. It needs human beings who will adopt it as their own way of living and thinking and worldview, who will act on it. The only way Islam can harm us is if there are people who act on it. Those people have a name. They themselves are called Muslims. They call themselves Muslims. They are Muslims. Okay? Mark Steven Domingo became a Muslim. That's the true story. That's the story that the DOJ is not telling. He wasn't just a U.S. Army vet. He became a Muslim. Maybe he was a Muslim when he went into the military. We don't know. Maybe that's why they're suppressing this part of the story. We don't know. But Mark Steven Domingo obviously embraced the teachings of Islam and became a jihadist, a soldier for Muhammad. Islam wasn't planning on a terrorist act to blow up innocent people to pieces in the name of Islam. It was Mark Steven Domingo, who probably has a Muslim name, who probably went to a specific mosque. He was planning on that. It was Islam that he embraced, and it was the doctrines of Islam that turned him from an American U.S. Army vet who swore allegiance to the flag into a despicable human being. If Islam turned him into a monster, and it did, then Islam must be banned. If his mosque was part of that system, it should be shut down. Why? Because they're dedicated to the dismantling of America and the civilized world. They're dedicated to subversion. They're dedicated to terrorism. They're dedicated to destroy everything we see. Look out your window. Just look out your window. Everything you see must be destroyed as per Islam, as per the jihadis in your neighborhood. Everything you hear will change. You will be hearing 5 times a day a dog screaming over the loudspeaker. That's what they do. An imam who screams like a psychopath. You become brainwashed. You become completely terrorized and crushed by a culture that wants you to be literally a slave. Programmable human being. Just need to strap a bomb belt on you and off you go, wherever the imam tells you, wherever your superior tells you. In the name of what? 7th century rapist, terrorist, pedophile, who probably never existed. How about that? It doesn't get more crazy than that, I can tell you that much. But not a single word about this whole story. Not a single word about the story in the official DOJ statement. Right? Why? Because the U.S. can't start a holy war. Well, it's already started. It started the day America became a nation. In fact, we can say with absolute assurance that Islam was the first global enemy of America in our history. This is from the Bill of Rights Institute, and I have the link on the website. As soon as it became an independent nation, the U.S. faced an unconventional enemy. Unconventional enemy. Interesting. In the Barbary pirates, who had controlled the Mediterranean Sea for hundreds of years. Presidents George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison all exercised their power as commander-in-chief in various ways to deal with the threat posed by the pirates before Madison was eventually able to declare victory against them. Pirates? No, they were jihadists. They've been around since 7th century. There's no such thing as pirates. They're all jihadists, terrorizing everyone in the Mediterranean Sea, threatening the economy of and the entire world, in fact. This was the first great enemy of America. It's been our enemy since then. This is the history Muslims don't want you to know. This is the history they're not teaching in schools. This is why websites like this exist, and this is why I'm risking everything, the little that I have, the little of life that I have. It's on the line because this is the truth. This is the truth. And someone needs to be able to tell it. Someone needs to get this word out. You can do that by sharing this information and helping us increase our footprint, reaching more people, and educating more people of these basic historic facts as well as current events about the amazing Islamophobia that's going on in America and the world. I mean, how do you not become an Islamophobe? You know, how do you read this and what, I mean, you expected to like read this and be like, oh, well, that's too bad. Well, he was just a bad apple. Well, okay. 1.5 billion people read the same book that calls them to kill all the Jews. How many bad apples can we afford? Okay, you tell me, Islamophobe. Have a nice day, and hope I see you around here on Islamophobia Watch.